and or of course, atheism is there too. But there are many religions where they don't have an in-depth teaching on how are we to conduct ourselves with our Creator. And Islam, through its teachings, makes it crystal clear. This is a deen in which we're supposed to have a perfect balance with our Creator. A balance of love, a balance of awe, a balance of fear and hope. We have, in everything there's a balance. In your relationship with Allah, there's also to be a balance. On the one hand, we know He is merciful and Rahman and Rahim, all forgiving. But on the other hand, we also know that He is the Master of the Day of Judgment. And in His hand is our destiny. Is our life here, but also our eternal life. So we have to tread our relationship with Allah carefully. It is not all just love. Allah is forgiving, do whatever you want. He will forgive. And it is not all fear, so that we're paralyzed in our fear of God. It's the perfect balance, and that balance is critical in our healthy relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if you look at other religions, in Hinduism, for example, there's 33 gods. And it's just a mumble jumble. It's clear here. One true God, and this is the way we're supposed to have a relationship with Him. In Buddhism, there is no God. They just have principles. So just the fact that we have this aspect of our deen is a cause for celebration. We wake up in the morning knowing that we're taken care of by the one and only true God. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala goes further to help us in our relationship with Him and tells us about His attributes, His 99 names and more. And we understand Him. We get to know Him. And this is a beautiful thing. I mean, you can literally spend your entire life trying to know Him. And that's enough of a reason for our existence. And it's also a beautiful way to live. If you spend your life trying to know Him, trying to get close to Him, understand Him through His names and attributes, that is a life of beauty and perfection. Because as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, when you look at His attributes, try to adorn them. And many of those we can. We can be just and merciful. We can be kind. We can be forgiven just like Him. So not only in our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we get to know Him better and become intimate with Him, we also get to know how we are to develop ourselves. So, in our relationship with Allah, we have to have a perfect balance. And this is a really beautiful aspect of our deen that is not found in other deens. So we celebrate this beautiful aspect of our deen, is that our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is unique, it is close. We don't have to go through a priest to reach Him, to communicate with Him. It's a one-on-one relationship. You're closest to Him when you're in sujood. And He's down at the lowest heaven in the last third of the night. I mean, it is an intimate relationship that we have with our Creator through our deen that is not found in other religions. Then we move on to how this deen teaches us to deal with humanity, to deal with other people. And in the other people, the most important of these other is our family. If you're not married, it is your parents and your siblings. How to deal with your parents. The Quran tells us clearly that you're supposed to be obedient to them. You're not supposed to say off to them. And it tells us how to deal with your siblings, your brothers and sisters. It's very clear in the teachings of the Quran and Sunnah. And once you are married, it shows perfectly and beautifully how we are supposed to conduct ourselves with our spouses. Prophet ﷺ said, the best among you are those who are best to their spouses, and I am the best to mine. And that is enough of a teaching for a married man or woman. And another hadith, Rasulullah ﷺ says, if you don't like something about your spouse, look at the good in there. I mean, there are 3 or 4 guiding principles in our deen that will literally take you through your marriage. You don't have to see more than that. So this deen teaches us not only about our relationship with Allah, it shows us every aspect of our relationship with creation, with our wives, with our husbands, with our children, to deal with our children with gentleness and kindness. When you're raising your kids, a couple of principles and you're done. Rasulullah tells us that gentleness adorns and harshness and strictness takes away. So you discipline your kids with gentleness. And for those who are in the habit of, there was a Sahabi that said, I have 10, 12 children and I have not kissed one of them. Prophet ﷺ said, I can't help it if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala snatched mercy from you. So, the Prophet ﷺ used to kiss his grandchildren, and of course his own. So they're guiding principles on how we're supposed to deal with people around us. So this is our family. When you go to the neighbors, it teaches us how to deal with our neighbors. To the point that Sahaba thought that, there was so much hukuk of the neighbors emphasized by the Prophet ﷺ that it was one point that the Sahaba thought that maybe there'll be some aspect of the will have incorporate neighbors' rights into it, because the Prophet ﷺ gave so much emphasis to the neighbors. And then beyond neighbors, our community, what we're supposed to do with our community, the role that we're supposed to play. This beautiful house of Allah called the Masjid, this is key and central to our relationship with the community. We build our relationship with the community through the masajid. And so the masajid of Allah are critical in your relationship with the community. That's why the Prophet ﷺ was so upset when people would pray at home. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for all of us to pray as much as we can in the masajid. But they play a critical role in how you interact with your community. And then expand that beyond the community. And as leaders, how a leader is supposed to deal with his subjects, with his people. He is accountable and responsible for them. He's not a tyrant who is going to take money away from them, and he's going to be accountable. Every shepherd, remember, you're the shepherd of your home, and the community gets larger and larger and larger. And so the king or the president or the prime minister, he is the shepherd of the entire country. Big responsibility, huge responsibility. But just look at how this deen puts emphasis on human interaction at every level. And then, going to war, if you have to go to war, even that's interaction with human beings too. Interaction, it's a negative interaction, but war again is an interaction with humanity. And there are principles there. The deen teaches us how to do that as well. You're not supposed to take down crops, destroy trees, deal with women and children, elderly people. All of that is laid out. It's a perfect, comprehensive deen. Running out of time. قولي قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين من كل ذنب واستغفر الله لي ولكم. الحمد لله فضلي وإحساني وانكروا إلى تفريق من تناي واشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له واشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. The last aspect of this relationship is the relationship with yourself. And this again, our faith shows us how to develop yourself, not just in terms of spiritual development, but how to take care of yourself. Your body has rights over you, the Prophet ﷺ. And you have to fulfill its rights. You have to give it sleep. You have to give it good food. Eat from the pure things, the Prophet ﷺ says. In the Quran, Allah SWT says, eat from the pure things. God tells us, don't eat junk. Don't put bad things inside your body. This body belongs to Allah SWT. And who's going to suffer if you put junk inside your body? The preservatives and all the stuff that's in a box. There's so much good food out there, pure food out there. Even though it's GMO, you can still find good food out there. It's hard, especially in this country. There's a lot of, it's difficult, but you can do it. If you look, you can do it. Just eat less. 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. You end up automatically eating less if you eat pure. Because the bad food is in abundance. The McDonald's and Burger Kings are in abundance. They're cheap. But that's not food. So it's not just how the Deen tells us about food. It tells us about so many different things in terms of how we are to take care of ourselves. In terms of our bodily needs, in terms of our emotional needs. Allah bi zikrillahi tatma'innul qulub. Allah SWT says, everybody is in turmoil. Everybody is in distress. That's the cure for your distress. Allah bi zikrillahi tatma'innul qulub. Allah SWT says, zikr morning and evening. Astaghfirullah morning and evening. You do salawat on a regular basis. You see the tranquility that will descend upon you. That's taking care of yourself. And then through purification of your soul, because we're not just flesh and bone. We have a soul inside of us. If you just take care of the body, it's not going to be enough. The body is nourished from the soul, from the earth, from the ground, from the skies, from the rain, from the trees, the animals. That's the nourishment of this soul, flesh and bone. But the soul, the nourishment of the soul is more important. You can have a beautiful body, sculpted and perfected, but if your soul is comatose, without the zikr of Allah, without the connection of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you're a walking shell. So it teaches us, this deen teaches us how to take care of this being, externally the flesh and bones, and internally the heart, the qalb, the soul. And there's an entire science of purification and tazkiyah that tells us how to work on your soul, to take care of the diseases of the heart, the jealousy and the envy and the rancor and all these anger, all these diseases of the heart. So not only does this deen tell us about how to deal with Allah, how to deal with the world around us, it also perfectly tells us how to deal with yourself, with the body and with the soul. And this is the reason to celebrate this deen on a daily basis. Yes, on those 2 beautiful days that one just passed and we're in it now, and 2 months and 10 days ago, those are also milestone celebrations. But to celebrate this deen on a daily basis, you have a lot of reasons. And I just went through just a little, in the last 20 minutes, a few of them to just remind myself and my brothers and sisters that we have a solid deen. We have an incredible faith, and we should celebrate it every single day. We should wake up in the morning being grateful that we don't have 33 gods to worship. That we don't say that our God is one of 3 and 3 of 1. That we wake up in the morning saying, why were we created? Not sure. Why am I waking up? Why am I sent on this earth? What am I doing here? That's a lot of good reasons. And the last thing I will tell you is there's a lot of confusion out there, especially for the youth and for the elders also, but more for the youth. There's a lot of confusion out there. A lot of confusion. This thing, deadly weapon of mass destruction. We have to all carry it, this weapon of mass destruction. And you all know it. There's a lot of confusion through this. There's a lot of attacks on our deen, attacks on our youth. Now, 10 years ago when I was a physician, You were either a male or a female.